Hi everybody, it's Christina from Adventures in Polished Land and happy Friday to you. In today's Friday Reads, I have a reading update, a one book haul. I wanted to share a video that I really enjoyed watching, and then I wanted to go over what's next for my reading. So let's jump right in. I did finish Our Town by Thornton Wilder since we last spoke. I overall enjoyed the play. I'm glad I read something that is such a classic work of drama, I suppose is the correct term for it. And I also found the afterword really interesting because it talked a lot about early Broadway history. And if you don't know, I am a huge Broadway fan, but I more go for the Broadway musicals, but it was still nice to learn about the industry and different Broadway grosses at the time that this came out on Broadway. And then I moved right into Woodworking by Emily St. James, and I have to tell you something really funny that happened to me. So in my last Friday Reads video, I talked about how Our Town is a foundational book because it is mentioned in so many other pieces of fiction and nonfiction alike, and it is just referenced a lot. And wouldn't you know, as soon as I picked up Woodworking, they are putting on the play Our Town in the story. I could not believe it. And I found it extra funny because I reread the synopsis on the inside. It does not mention Our Town whatsoever. And I had never heard of this book, Woodworking, before. I only discovered it because I was searching for a book set in South Dakota. So that was hilarious to me. And it proved my point that Our Town really is a foundational book. And what's even more funny is that I was reading the quote at the top here, and it's by the best-selling author of Remarkably Bright Creatures. Here it is. This was already on my TBR. So it is really hysterical that this book, Woodworking, that I had never heard of before, I only picked it up for a book set in South Dakota, and it fits amazingly with my other TBR for the month of May, in between Our Town and Remarkably Bright Creatures. So that was really funny to me and a great coincidence. But as for the story itself, I am really enjoying this book. It is about a high school teacher who realizes that she is transgender, and she comes out to a student at her school who is the only other trans person she has ever met. And the two begin an unlikely friendship, and the story follows both of them as they are working through this school year, trying to fit in and come to terms with who they are. So that's just a really quick synopsis. This is one of those books where so much is happening over the course of the story, but it doesn't feel too complicated or confusing. It just works really well. So I am hopeful to finish this either today or tomorrow. Let's see how many pages I have left. I'm on page 290 out of 351. So maybe I can finish it tonight. If not, I will finish it tomorrow. I did buy one book since we last spoke. I went into Boston to see the musical Swept Away, which is currently playing at the Calderwood Pavilion. If you're interested in a show about a shipwreck that goes really badly, I recommend the show, actually. It was really interesting. But on the way back home, I stopped at the Brattle and I purchased a book by Allie Smith. This is Companion Piece. And last year I read one of her books for the first time and I absolutely loved it. So when I saw they had this one there, I bought it. It was $15, which was a little steep, but it looks like it's about half off of the retail price. Yeah, the retail price was $28, so they're charging you just over half, which I thought was fair. Time to buy it is when you see it, as they always say. So I don't know when I'll get to this, but I want to slowly start collecting her books to see if I love them as much as I loved the first one. The video that I wanted to shout out here is one by Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and it was about banned books. He talks specifically about an author in Australia who was recently convicted of really horrible crimes, and then he discussed whether or not authors should be totally banned, as in their books cannot be purchased legally, they're not offered in libraries, and so on and so forth, or if we should just have sort of an air of, we're going to agree that you're not going to read these books unless you need them as reference material or something like that. He also talked a bit about separating the art from the artist, and I found this video really interesting because this is a topic that really does not have a correct answer, and I think it can be frustrating because on the one hand, banning books is bad and we should not do that, but on the other hand, we don't want to be supporting people who have done really terrible things. And I think for me, the easiest example is J.K. Rowling, because as I grew up, I absolutely loved Harry Potter. I was a huge Harry Potter fan. I got all of the books when they came out. I went to the midnight premieres of the movies. I was the biggest fan and loved Harry Potter so much. But when she started going off of the deep end and spreading such hateful rhetoric when it came to trans women in particular, and really doubling down on everything that she was spewing on the internet, I had to make the decision that, you know what, as much as I loved her fiction books about a boy wizard, I can no longer support her. So I have cut myself off from Harry Potter completely, and I have to admit that when I see other people still reading it or supporting her and going to the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child play, or going to Universal and posing in front of the Harry Potter rides and buying her merchandise, I honestly can't believe that they are giving money to somebody who is actively harming people through her beliefs and the legislation that she is helping to get passed in the UK. And so all of that being said, I'm going to link Scott's video in the description box because I found it really interesting, and I think he points out a lot of the arguments on both sides and kind of leaves you to make up your own mind with what you're going to do going forward. And as for what I'm going to do going forward with my reading, I think I mentioned in my last Friday Reads video that I had 2 books on hold at the library and I was worried they were going to come in at the same time, and sure enough they did on exactly the same day, which is funny because for one of the books, which is Remarkably Bright Creatures, this one I think I was 3rd of 13 on the list or something like that, and then I also got, what is this called? The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and I was like 1 of 3 on the list, and they came on the exact same day. So here's a little information about me. I am actually not going to be home for most of next week. I'm going to be traveling, and so I don't know if I should bring a library book with me, because we all know what happened the last time I brought a library book with me. I damaged it, which I have to return that this weekend, by the way, and hopefully the librarians will not get mad at me. But I have to decide when I'm going to read these, because I'm afraid I'm not going to have time to read either of them before they're due back. I am deciding whether I should pick one of my own physical books off of my TBR shelf. My TBR is quite big right now because I've been buying a lot of books but reading only from the library. I think what I might do is look at my physical TBR, see what books I can fit into the American Lit Reading Challenge, and then I will pick back up with my May TBR when I get back, and I'll have to do some rescheduling with the TBR, I think, but we'll see what happens. I don't know what I will be reading next, but I will keep you updated. Next Friday, I might not have a Friday Reads video because I will not be here, so we will see what happens. Maybe I'll just make a community post letting you know what I'm reading. So make sure to subscribe if you want to follow along on my reading journey. Let me know what you are reading in the comments below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.